Mahmoud Khalil was an individual who was given the privilege of coming to this country to study at one of our nation's finest universities and colleges. And he took advantage of that opportunity, of that privilege, by siding with terrorists, Hamas terrorists who have killed innocent men, women, and children. This is an individual who organized group protests that not only disrupted college campus classes and harassed Jewish American students and made them feel unsafe on their own college campus, but also distributed pro-Hamas propaganda, flyers with the logo of Hamas. And this administration is not going to tolerate individuals having the privilege of studying in our country and then siding with pro-terrorist organizations that have killed Americans. We have a zero-tolerance policy for siding with terrorists, period.
Welcome. This is Apollos 25, and I'm your host, Gabriel. And if you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please hit the subscription note. Be the first to be notified whenever there's a new update and new upload. There is issues on ground, serious issues. Mahmoud Khalil was picked up by members of the secret agent and was arrested from his home while he was coming back from his place of work. And we are getting information from the press secretary to the US government of the Donald Trump-led administration why decisions like that were taken. It was allegedly believed that this young man was pro-Hamas, supporter of Hamas, and it's been said that America has zero tolerance for those who support those who are behind the killing of Americans and destruction of life, especially in the Middle East. And so the Donald Trump administration went further in trying to engage in deportation, and the revoking of this guy's green card. Is an American citizen. And people are on the street demonstrating. In short, this is one of the demonstrations among many demonstrations that have taken place. And people are asking, are we testing the limits of the law? Is the Donald Trump administration going too far? If this pulls through and it happens that this young man is completely deported, who else can come under this? Are we in a democratic system, or are we in a physics system where one man takes up the law and does what it does? For how long will he go on implementing executive orders without the approval of the Senate? And so I want to know what your thoughts are, what your opinions are, even as we watch the video of his legal team as they present their case before the American citizens in New York. Let's watch.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As we tried to make clear in court today, what happened to Mahmoud Khalil is nothing short of extraordinary and shocking and outrageous. It should outrage anybody who believes that speech should be free in the United States of America. Mr. Khalil is a lawful permanent resident. He was coming home with his U.S. citizen wife, who is 8 months pregnant, and he was taken by U.S. government agents in retaliation, essentially, for exercising his First Amendment rights, for speaking up in defense of Palestinians in Gaza and beyond, for being critical of the U.S. government and of the Israeli government. Those are the reasons why he was targeted. Those are the reasons why he was detained. And that's the reason why the government also moved him to Louisiana, further retaliation for the fact that on the night of his arrest at home, he filed a habeas corpus petition in this court, which he also had a constitutional right to do. In retaliation for that, he was moved to Louisiana to take him away from his lawyers, to take him away from accessing this court, to take him away from his family and his support network. And so every day that Mahmoud spends in detention in Louisiana is a day too long. We and he fully intend to vindicate not just his First Amendment rights, but those of all Americans, frankly, and all lawful permanent residents, and anybody who wants to speak out. It simply cannot be the case that you can be disappeared at night off the streets of New York City simply because the current U.S. government, the current administration of the White House dislikes what you have to say. That is, not just un-American, it's also unacceptable. And so Mr. Khalil and we will fight as hard as we need to in court to bring him home to New York City as soon as possible. And that's one of the motions that is now pending before this court. It is a motion to bring him back home and to free him so that he can fight this removal case.
I have great news, and I also have worse news than yesterday. The good news is that a federal judge intervened to block the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, a graduate of Columbia University who was taken by immigration enforcement in the middle of the night, despite having a green card, just because he said something that the Trump administration didn't like. And I lied. I think there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 things of bad news. But one is that Mahmoud is still in immigration detention. And another is that people from the State Department and the Department of Homeland Security are saying the legal basis that they used to do this to him. And it's pretty creepy. This is from Zateo. Marco Rubio personally signed off on the arrest of Palestinian Columbia University student protester negotiator Mahmoud Khalil using a narrow, little-used authority given to the Secretary of State, per 2 sources within the Department of Homeland Security and the State Department. I'm gonna read the provision that they're citing here. It's legal jargon. Stay with me, please. This is from the Immigration and Nationality Act. An alien whose presence or activities in the United States the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States is deportable. So basically, it just gives the Secretary of State the power to deport any non-citizen or national of the U.S. if they feel like they're dangerous to U.S. foreign policy, which, if it sounds arbitrary, it is. So the Trump administration wants to deport Mahmoud for supporting Hamas or being anti-Semitic. And you've seen this label be thrown around. Like, if you care about human beings dying in Gaza, they call you a terrorist sympathizer. They call you pro-Hamas. Whatever they want to call you, they call you that, to create this hysteria. And I was talking to you all about the Red Scare yesterday, about how anyone who got called a communist or got accused of being a communist was thrown in jail or blackballed. So, unfortunately, and coincidentally, this law that the Trump administration is trying to use to deport Mahmoud in the early 50s was a Red Scare tactic. It was used during the Red Scare. Specifically, the ideological litmus test parts of it, where are your loyalties, what do you believe, etc., etc. Enacted in 1952, quote, were widely understood at the time to target Eastern European Jewish Holocaust survivors suspected of being Soviet agents. Also, just actions speak louder than words. Like, accusing someone of being anti-Semitic for caring about Palestinian life and then using a law that targeted Holocaust survivors for being Soviet spies. It looks pretty bad. So it sounds like the Trump administration is not alleging that Mahmoud committed a crime. They're just saying he had a thought. He had an opinion. He had a thought they didn't like. So if they're really using this provision, then that means that the Secretary of State can just decide anyone's opinions are a threat to national security. And I don't know how much y'all know about our Secretary of State, but here's him talking to peace activists.
That does not justify 32,000 dead, a starvation, a famine.
That's a lie.
It's not, sir, no, you are lying right now. You are lying. You're supporting genocide.
So Marco Rubio's kind of a hater to anyone who cares about Palestinians. He has a lot of vitriol. So if this is really the route that they're going down, using this provision of this law, that's deeply fascistic. And like I said yesterday, when I was talking to you all about the Red Scare, if you think this doesn't apply to you, unfortunately it does. So there are protests all over to stand up for Mahmoud. You should go to one, because it's our responsibility to stand up for him, or else it sets a very bad precedent that we don't care if the Trump administration deports people, jails people for having a different opinion. And also, you should write to Columbia University and say that they should be protecting their students and not collaborating with immigration enforcement to arbitrarily detain and deport students.
So welcome back. I personally feel that things are actually getting out of order, and it's imperative for me that this administration, even though that I am of the opinion that certain policies that have been implemented by the MAGA system, I love them. I can't say I am completely in support of all of the system, but I think that it is important that we do not do things that will have consequences or ripple effects on our children and our children's children. So please, I want to know what your thoughts are, what your comments are. And I think that, me personally, that the revoking of this guy's rights and licenses is way, way going too far. Revoking of his citizenship. He should maybe possibly find ways to be punished or subpoenaed or something. But to revoke his green card where he had not been evidently committed any crime, known crime, I think is unfair. And to have him separated from himself and his family, his pregnant wife who urgently needs him now in the state that she is. All right. Thank you.